Welcome to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for ... And with me, as always, is Vinny Lospinuso, the man who is America's favorite sports historian. And if I keep saying it long enough, it's going to become true. It's even going to be on your gravestone. I'm much older than you. I won't see it, but yes, that is what we're going for. And we're staying on the gridiron here. We've been doing a lot of football ones, and we're looking at another running back, Steven Jackson. Is this another request?
This is a request from my friend Kenton Miller. He runs the St. Louis Rams history page on Twitter/X. You can go
Okay.
follow him on there. He's done a phenomenal job, truly, truly phenomenal job in terms of making people remember, the history of the Rams in St. Louis, and also a bit of how the Cardinals were in St. Louis too. Well, the football team, Big Red, not the baseball team for obvious
Right, right,
reasons.
right. So just focusing on the Rams, per se, not the Cardinals.
Well, well,
On his
well, he
page.
mostly focused on the Rams
Right.
because he's in the same age bracket as me. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Well, yeah. So that would definitely be someone he grew up watching. Yourself also. I said before we went on, this one you're gonna have to do some work on this to convince myself. And I don't consider this that so much as a shot at Steven Jackson. He is on the not in Hall of Fame 300 football list, but well behind other running backs. And I've got a running back who's coming up soon who has less production, who I'm far bigger on. You probably can figure that one out.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'll bring that up. So I guess we'll just sort of look at Jackson overall, 2004, 2012, mostly known for his time in St. Louis, obviously. Tail end of his career with Atlanta and New England. Uh, Good stats. I mean, like they're there. He's near 12,000 in rushing yards, 69 TDs, a better receiver than I think a lot of people remember. 3,683 yards, 9 touchdowns. So that's maybe a little low if you're truly considered a dual purpose back, but solid numbers. What am I missing?
yeah. In fact, well, first off, you're forgetting how he has the most. He has many NFL records. He has the most consecutive season with four more rushing touchdowns, tied with Emmitt Smith. He also has the most consecutive season with a 40-plus yard run.
Mhm.
He also has the most rushing attempts by a player without a 60-plus yard run. And he also has the most consecutive touches without a fumble. And he's the only player with 1,400 yards rushing and 800 yards receiving. And also, don't forget, you look at all the great running backs with the Rams. He has the most ever rushing yards for that entire team, Steven Jackson.
Well, yeah, but a lot of those two great ones that you will think of first didn't play. They only played half their career there, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you even just thinking of it, you would think that those other people would have the record, but Steven Jackson does.
Okay. If Jackson was my running back for his peak 6 year period, I think most fans would be happy with that. I mean, that, unless obviously you had somebody maybe on a higher level, but if you learn about his 6 year peak and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have an RB who's going to be doing that for my next 6 years, you're happy. Where I wonder if he falls off, never a first team all pro, only 3 Pro Bowls. So I would argue that there's only a handful of seasons, a couple, maybe three, where I would label him as a top 5 running back. Would that be fair, or would you say there'd be more than
I could probably say there's some more.
that? Okay.
Like you look at his best. The problem with Steven Jackson as to why he didn't get much attention is because of a very simple situation. I think of him as the NFC's version of Corey Dillon in many ways. Now, to
Okay.
just on the record, I'll say this: I think Corey Dillon was better than Steven Jackson. However, I do think they are kind of similar
They're very
because
similar.
Steven Jackson, in the same way that Corey Dillon played with some really bad Bengals teams, Steven Jackson on the Rams, those Rams teams were absolutely atrocious when he was playing for them.
It was no longer the greatest show on turf.
No, it was more like what would happen if you go to a Blues game and you see a very filthy, or very filthy and crushed up Bud Light, or Budweiser can. I'm saying, trying to stick with St. Louis here. But yeah, the Rams were by far the worst team. In fact, if you look at that 3-year stretch, that is one of the worst stretches in NFL history. I think they only won one game in 2009, and that was against the Lions team that went winless the previous year. But at the same time, you could look at the Rams, especially in that time, as a very dark cloud, which they were. There was no sugarcoating how bad they were. However, every dark cloud has a silver lining. And that silver lining was Steven Jackson. He was the reason why people were wondering how they game plan against the Rams. He was the face of the team, plain and simple. It wasn't like no greatest show on turf. Obviously, Marshall Faulk was better and everything, but you get other supporting cast and everything. Where Steven Jackson, it was early in his career at the very tail end of Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, but then afterwards, Mark Bolger flamed out at the end. You have Sam Bradford very early on. You
Oh
didn't have
God,
a
there's
lot
a
of.
name I haven't thought about for so long.
You also think of how Orlando Pace left early in his career, so he didn't have the same protection by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on a team that was really, really bad for most of his career, and he balled out every single time. He also had 8 straight years of 1,000 or more rushing yards. He was also a quality receiving back too. Like, you have someone
We're going with
that's
this. Okay.
like, yeah, not only that, the year that the Rams went 1-15, he was still named a second team All Pro. That's like the same. That's like Joe Thomas for the Browns. How that team would be so awful, but he would just be so dominant. Now, I think it's a little harder with Steven Jackson compared to Joe Thomas, because Joe Thomas also had more respect around the league. He was more well known. Steven Jackson, because the Rams didn't have as many vocal people as the Browns, he kind of got a bit lost in the shuffle there. But still, he was so good in the year 2009. That team was so bad, and he still wasn't all pro that year. Like, that's pretty incredible.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in '06 he did lead the league in all-purpose yards.
That is correct. He did lead the lead. Yeah, he did lead the league in all-purpose yards. He had over 2,000
Mm-hmm.
yards, if I'm not mistaken, like 2,300, something like that.
Okay, so you've got Corey Dillon higher. That might be an
Yes.
interesting one for you. I'm sure there maybe Bengals Jim might want you to do that one.
I'm probably gonna get a case for him down the line. I'm pretty sure that's I book it. I think it's eventually gonna happen.
All right, I'm going to segue off of this just because I don't think you and I have ever talked about this running back. Apologies for everyone here for about Steven Jackson. I think we covered, and I still don't have him there, but you moved my needle a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I will say this for Steven Jackson too. People could compare him to Fred Taylor. Fred Taylor has way less.
Fred Taylor.
Well, Fred Taylor has been a semifinalist numerous times, and he was just a
I
finalist.
know. I know.
Fred Taylor, granted, you could say, he has a higher yard per carry, but at the same time, they're only separated in terms of total yardage by like 200. There's not much separation between the two. The difference is Fred Taylor is a finalist, and Steven Jackson has not even been a semifinalist yet.
You
There's
could
not
say
much of a
him
difference
or
between
Corey
the two.
Dillon could have easily been in that spot.
Yeah, Corey Dillon, and I think Corey Dillon was better than Fred Taylor, and I think Steven Jackson was
Holmes
better than
could have
Fred
been in
Taylor.
that spot too.
Yeah, I'd say so also. And Steven Jackson, again, he's like Corey Dillon, and I guess sort of like, I think just if I were to guess why I think Fred Taylor is the one that kind of went above Steven Jackson is because Fred Taylor's 17 and Steven Jackson's 18. As simple as that. That's what I think is the reason.
Something. So
Yeah.
here's the question I was going to ask you. I'm not that big on Frank Gore. Frank Gore is
I'm
going to be coming up.
huge. I am huge on Frank
Yeah,
Gore.
I am not. To me, he's a compiler. And Gore, maybe only one season was a top five running back.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't, at one point, if I was a voter, I would necessarily block this. I would question whether there wouldn't be five other players better at the end of the day on whatever respective ballot. I
Yeah.
will say Gore is probably getting in first ballot Hall of Fame, regardless of what I think. So my question to you is the same prediction: Frank Gore, first ballot, or do they make him wait for the same reasons that I'm not huge on him?
Well, Antonio Gates didn't make it first ballot, and Demarcus Ware didn't make it first ballot, and Brian Dawkins didn't make it first ballot. The way I see it when it comes to the first ballot thing, I think it's just another way for the media to get clicks and to just debate for the sake of debating. I
I have
personally
a
don't.
whole website based on.
Well, no. What I mean is like, no, I mean what I'm saying is like, I personally don't care if Gore makes it first ballot or not.
Okay.
I don't think he will. That's just, I mean, I'm saying if Antonio Gates can't make it first ballot, and if Demarcus Ware couldn't make it first ballot, I don't see Frank Gore making it first ballot. As for, I think there might also be some fatigue from running backs. Like, oh, we have too many running backs, so they'll just block anyone else that might be somewhat similar. Which I can understand, but also I'm not really a huge fan because it just ends up just infuriating other fan bases.
I just wanted to go on the segue and see where it took us.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So thanks so much for doing this. Uh, as always, check out all the other shows that Vinny does here. We also did a series on basketball final or preliminary finalists. I know the Basketball Hall of Fame, as we're recording this, is just a day removed from announcing their 2024 class. But there's a lot of interesting names that get considered in various subcommittees that
Mhm.
Vinny and I have been trying. And we're going to continue to do that. I would like us to continue to do that, where we're
I
sort of.
also do want to mention another thing with Steven Jackson too before
Oh, sure.
we
Yeah,
end this.
sorry, I didn't mean to close this off too early. Go ahead.
Another reason why I also did this case for him is because I'm actually working behind the scenes to get him in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I've been working. I emailed some of the voters about it.
Okay.
They said he's very high on their radar.
Mhm.
There's been much more of a demand as of recently for Steven Jackson. And,
Okay.
you know, whether you think he's deserving of Canton's one thing, but yeah, the Rams, like I said, they were
Yeah.
a dark cloud. But at the same time, there was a silver lining there that people want to go see. I mean,
As
you're
I
talking about the
told
guy.
you in the previous episode, the beer can is half full.
Yeah, see, like Steven Jackson, without a doubt, like no one, even though you had the dominance of the greatest show on turf and whatnot, they didn't stay there for that long. Steven Jackson was the workhorse for that team the majority of their time in St. Louis.
Mhm.
And whether or not he makes it to Canton, you got to get this guy in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. It's
Oh,
no question.
I can sign on that.
You have to, especially as all these great running backs for the Rams, only one could say it, and he didn't in St. Louis, Missouri. Like again, that's something that you can claim to yourself. Put this guy in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay. No, that's good information to know. All right. So closing off, wherever you are, easy for me to say. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everyone.